Welcome to Dom Picks Divisional Round Edition. This is my first YouTube video ever. Before we get into it, make sure you guys like, comment, and most importantly, hit that subscription button. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. We got the Texans at the Kansas City Chiefs. For the Texans, their offense is going to have to be perfect this game. The turnovers that they had in the first half against the LA Chargers, in this game, if they do that, it's going to be damn near impossible to come back from. When I look at CJ Stroud's performance in that second half, that was what we expected from him coming into this year. Unfortunately, this team underachieved. He's arguably in the top 10 quarterback discussion despite having an underperforming year. But the thing with him is that he shows up when the moment counts. And that Texas team is going to need a great performance by him to pull off the upset. Joe Mixon in the running game. That's going to be my X factor. Last week, the O-line stepped up. At second half, they were able to run the ball efficiently. That took pressure off of the pass protect. If they can do that in this game, that gives them a better chance of pulling off the upset. Now, it's going to be difficult because KC has one of the best front sevens, and they were a top rush defense over the regular season. Defensively, this is where the game probably will come down to. You have a pass rush that has so much success last week, and they can replicate that this week against this Chiefs O-line. If they're able to get to Mahomes and cause some havoc, then you got Stingley in that secondary who can make plays and flip the game on its head. The one thing to watch, make sure you contain and you have gap integrity when you're playing Mahomes. Because in the playoffs, we have seen him rip off these crazy scrambles that have led to these memorable and impactful highlight plays. For the Kansas City Chiefs, that three-peat is within grasp. But that O-line, as I mentioned, is going to be their biggest issue going forward. They got to deal with Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter. That will be a tall task. The strategy that I can see Andy Reid utilizing is moving this offense to a higher tempo. That way you get the ball out quicker to neutralize these pass rushers of the Texans. Also, that run game is going to have to be very impactful. They did have to sacrifice their run game because they adjusted that O-line to get the best version of the pass protect. Maybe after these couple of weeks off, they figure out some strategies to better utilize Isaiah Pacheco. As I've said all year, when it comes to this Chiefs defense, this is a championship defense. They did dip as the season progressed, and that was largely due to some injuries in the secondary. Now they're getting healthy. Jalen Watson more than likely is going to return this game, and he's going to be opposite of Trent McDuffie. That allows the secondary to get back to where they were before the injury, and will allow Steve Spagnuolo to get back to creating those pressure packages. And we know that the Texas O-line has had their fair struggles and pass protect. I'm going to take Kansas City to win this game. I believe the greatness of Mahomes is going to carry them past a very game Houston Texans team. Much like how we saw last year, Travis Kelce, who's been relatively quiet, is going to reemerge, and he's going to show why him and Mahomes have one of the best connections all time. And then when you look at that defensive side, they're getting healthy. They're going to be well rested. I think they will make enough plays to power this team to the next round. Commanders at the Lions. I think a lot of people have this weird thought that it's going to be a blowout, but I don't think it's going to be like that at all. Because you got Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is him. He's special, and he's constantly willed this team to victory almost every single week. Now, I will say that Detroit defense is very opportunistic, but I believe Daniels will make plays, and he will have this team within reach. The Washington running attack has to be reestablished. Earlier in the season, Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler, Washington had a really good 1-2 punch, but over the last month or two, that's kind of fizzled out. And it has made it difficult for the offense to move the ball consistently. Now, it's going to be a tall task because Detroit has one of the best rushing defenses. Not to mention, Aaron Glenn is a top coordinator, so I think he will find a way to neutralize that rushing attack and force the rookie to win this game on his own. And perhaps the most key part of this game is going to come down to that Commanders defensive unit. They played well last week on the road in Tampa, but this is a different animal. That Detroit Lions offense is a buzzsaw. They're going to have to be stout against the run because you got Jahmyr Gibbs and then you have a potentially returning David Montgomery. That's their 1-2 punch in Detroit, and it's been very efficient for the last 2 years. Now, I am curious to see whether or not Marshawn Lattimore is going to follow St. Brown. I think it would probably be best if they try to neutralize him, but Detroit just has so many weapons. You still got to cover J-Mo and Sam Laporta. They're going to have to more than likely get a takeaway or two. That way you steal some possessions from Detroit. Even then, it's still like, I don't know, because we literally saw this same Detroit team have 5 turnovers in the game and still win. When you look at the Lions, they are the favorites to come out of the NFC. They have a great coach in Dan Campbell, and because of Dan Campbell, they've established this culture of just being aggressive and playing every game to the final whistle. As I mentioned, David Montgomery may return this game, and that's going to be very impactful for this offense because you add that power to that 1-2 punch with him and Gibbs, and it adds versatility for third and manageable downs. Coming into this game, I'm very curious to see what Detroit is going to do defensively because you can send a blitz at Jaden Daniels, but throughout the course of the year, he's shown that he's able to pick it apart and make plays when it matters most. Then you got the Terrion Arnold injury. I think he should be able to go for this game, but the thing to watch for him in that secondary is that they're one of the most penalized units. That could come back and hurt them because in the playoffs, when you have penalties at inopportune times, that can more than likely dictate the outcome of the game. All that being said, I'm taking Detroit. I love Jaden Daniels. I love what he's done for this franchise, for that city, but it's just a lot to ask for him as a rookie because I believe Detroit's offense is going to be able to thrive. Not to mention, I'm not sure if Washington can get that running game going. For it to all lay on his shoulders at this stage of his career, I think that's asking a lot of him to come and pull off the upset. We got the Rams at the Eagles. Shout out to the Rams. Let's do this for the city. I think playoff Stafford is a real thing because since he's arrived, he's made plays and put this team in position to win more often than not. The two keys for this Rams offense to win on the road against this number one defensive unit is going to come down to running the football, thus controlling time of possession, and then making sure you connect with Puka and Cooper Kupp when it matters most. I always reference the Buffalo Bills game from earlier in the year for the Rams. That's a game that they win because going back to the first half, they play keep away from Josh Allen by being able to run the football efficiently and making sure you control that time of possession. This week, they're going to have to play keep away from Saquon Barkley because last time these two teams met, he absolutely ran all over them. I look at that LA defense. They got to force Jalen Hurts to beat them. And I respect Jalen Hurts, but when you look at their passing game this year, it's been very lackluster. And as much as that Rams defense has improved as the season has progressed, Saquon is just a different beast, man. The best option truly does come down to forcing the Philadelphia Eagles to win this game through their passing game, which is crazy because of the weapons that they have. Also, I forgot to include this, but because that Eagles passing game is so underwhelming right now, it often has led to slow starts. That is even more pressure on the Rams to get off to a decent start. For Philly, as I just mentioned, the Eagles do have a problem with starting games off fast. If Saquon is the focal point to start the game and he has success, I think that allows the passing game to open up because you got to send more guys into the box to try to contain Saquon, and that should open up some more options in the passing game down the field. Jalen Hurts and Kellen Moore, they're going to have to figure it out because A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, those are talented receivers. You got to be able to unlock this offense to allow them to have an impact because if they have their impact on the game, this is a completely different story. Defensively, I'm looking forward to the matchup of Cooper Kupp and Puka against the entirety of the Eagles secondary because you got two excellent wide receivers going up against the Eagles secondary who have shown all year that they can make plays and they can cover the best of the best. As much as it pains me to go against the boys from LA, I gotta go with the Eagles because I just don't know how that Rams defense is going to cover Saquon Barkley. Also, when I look at the Eagles defense, I expect them to make it difficult for the Rams to play keep away because this was a unit that was ranked 6th in turnover differential at +11. They're the number 1 passing defense and they're a top 10 run defense. This is going to be a tough game to win on the road for the Rams. And then in the heavyweight main event of the divisional round, we got 2 MVPs. We got Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen, Baltimore Ravens against the Buffalo Bills. Let's start off with the Ravens. They dominated the Bills back in week 4. They ran all over them and they controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Much like last week, Derrick Henry in the run game should be the focal point because at best, this is an average Buffalo Bills run defense. Lamar Jackson, I think he's going to be exceptional even without Zay Flowers more than likely. We already know he's a dynamic runner and he still has Andrews, Likely, and Bateman. Those guys are capable receivers who will make plays in crucial moments. The biggest caution for that Ravens offense is just making sure that they don't turn the ball over. When you're on the road in that ruckus environment in Orchard Park, that can prove costly and that can definitely change the dynamic of the game. Defensively, that front seven is very stout. The key is making sure you contain Josh Allen, as crazy as it sounds, because we know Josh Allen can beat you with his arm. You got to force him to make throws from the pocket. On the other side, Buffalo should already know what the game plan is for Baltimore. Much like what I think the Ravens are going to do against Buffalo, I think the Bills are going to kind of do the same thing. I think they're going to stack the box and they're going to force Lamar to beat them with his arm in the pocket as well. Now, if they do that, I do have some concerns because that secondary has been hot and cold. And they're playing up against a great tight end duo who can cause some mismatches in the secondary. After a lackluster offensive performance in the previous encounter, what can the Buffalo Bills do better? I think it's going to come down to having success in the run game. If they can replicate what they did last week in controlling the line of scrimmage there, that could prove very effective this week because that may force the Baltimore Ravens to move Kyle Hamilton down to the box. And the reason why the Ravens defense improved compared to earlier in the season was because they decided to move Hamilton to the secondary to help in coverage. Then I look at the wide receiver spot for Buffalo. The reason why they've been so successful is because they don't have that alpha. But someone's going to have to step up this game. And who's it going to be? Is it going to be Amari Cooper? Is it going to be Keon Coleman? Or is it going to be one of those two tight ends, Kincaid or Knox? Ultimately, it comes down to Josh Allen playing like an MVP. Much like with Lamar on the other side, is going to take a special performance in order to reach the championship game next week. This was a tough game to pick. I like both of these teams. I like both of the quarterbacks. I want to see them win their first Super Bowl. I'm going to go with Lamar and Baltimore because Derrick Henry is the difference maker for the Ravens. And then I also believe that Lamar is going to rise to the occasion. He understands that he hasn't played his best football in the postseason. So going against another MVP candidate, I believe we will see the best version of Lamar. And don't get it twisted. I believe in Josh Allen's offense. I think they're going to make plays to keep this game close. But I'm more concerned about that Bills defense because I'm not sure if they're going to be able to handle the duo of Lamar and Derrick Henry.